All right, we're trying out a new format here on This Comic Cooks called Sizzling Stories. I am Vector. I'm here always talking comics. I'm here with the steamiest boys in the business. First, the Lego master himself, Shaw. How you doing, Shaw?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Yeah. And all the way from Fuse to Film, Mr. Kevin Call. Mr. Call, how you doing, sir?
Bye.
Oh, he just saw Deadpool and Wolverine, and he's been dancing ever since. We might get his thoughts on that. But This episode, we're going to talk about some of the geekiest news stories that are going around the horn right now. And Shoff, I love when you bring me news stories. What you got for me this week?
Ooh, well, I scoured the pages. I was like, nope, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
Reading the paper.
Not interesting enough. Boring. Okay, I found something that spoke to me. I was like, we got to talk about this because it's getting me fired up. You know how it is. Oh yeah. So we're gonna talk about Lego Star Wars is bringing Darth Jar Jar to life in Rebuild the Galaxy. Now, if you don't know about Rebuild the Galaxy, it is a show coming to Disney Plus in September. I think it's September 13th. I will double check that date to be sure. But the most important part is it's taking aspects of the Star Wars universe and it's sort of remixing them in a really interesting way. Because the plot point of this show is that the entire Star Wars universe, it is being dismantled brick by brick and then being rebuilt in really strange and peculiar ways. And this was an idea that came to them. They're like, if there's ever going to be a time to do Darth Jar Jar, this is the perfect time, because Darth Jar Jar is such a meme at this point and super funny, and a lot of funny theories are out there about Jar Jar Binks being a Dark Lord of the Sith, and had been the entire time, sort of as a double agent type thing in the prequel trilogy. But they were like, we could do this. And one of the quotes that they have from this news article, it talks about what would it cause him to become a Sith? Where would he end up in this version of the Star Wars galaxy? And writing it in such a way where we said, can he actually be scary? Can he actually be something that people never thought they would see? And then on top of that, to have Ahmed Best coming back and voicing the character.
Lisa Jar Jar
Yes. So we're going to get
side Shaw.
So we're going to get this back, and it's so exciting. So exciting. Yeah, you can see this trailer. It's freaking awesome. Crazy things are happening. Ewoks are becoming bounty hunters, and X-Wings are becoming TIE fighters. The whole thing is just wacky and wild. And then
it's almost like they sat in a room and was just like, what is the craziest Star Wars things that never would make it on screen? Let's do it. Yeah. Here
it is, Darth Jar Jar. And he says, Nisa going to hurt you, son. So awesome. I'm very there. September 13th. I was right. Okay, so super excited about this. Putting that on your radar, because we should definitely watch this. We should definitely review this. And in tandem, as Lego does with their licensing deals with Star Wars and Disney and all of that, they have a fair amount of sets, and a lot of sets that are being featured in this show are also available to build. And so the set that you're going to find in this show is going to be the Dark Falcon. That's going to be the one you're going to look at. Yeah. So this Dark Falcon set, really, really cool. There's a lot of great pictures and things, but I'll show you a picture of the rest of the minifigures. So we've got, we've got Luke, who is like a beach version of Luke. Like he's hanging out. He's got his milk, right? We've got a white Vader. So we've got a hero version of Vader. We've got Dark Rey on the far right there, so she's got her double
lightsaber. Nice
lightsaber. Yep,
I like
that.
And
then the other, we got C-3PO, but we also have this other character. I don't know his name.
Sith 3PO.
He's got the red eyes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So this set is really exciting. I wanted to get this one when it came out on August 1st, but it was just a little too steep. $180. I was like, I'm gonna wait just a little bit. But what I did get, and this will also be in in the episode Rebuild the Galaxy
Nice.
is this set, which is Jedi Bob's Starfighter. Now, if you don't know about Jedi Bob, I've got some things to tell you. But first of all, I wanted to get your guys' take. What do you guys think about Darth Jar Jar?
I love it. I have been one of the probably biggest vocalists that he has secretly been a Sith or a dark Force user or some form of a bad character. I think that would be the best way to make Jar Jar Binks an interesting character and sort of redeem his quirkiness. But so I love it. I love that we're finally getting to see what version of that would be, whether even though it's it's in a Lego situation, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I love that it's on the best. And you're playing on all those like fan theories that have been going around for so many years. So it's cool, and it's almost like a Lego or a Star Wars what if, I should say.
Yes.
Which a lot of people
we need.
have been
We
wanting
need a
to.
Star
Yes.
Wars what if.
Yes.
We need it.
And one other thing that they mentioned was when they were making this show is they said we wanted to recreate what it feels like to play with your Star Wars Lego. Hand anyone a bin of Star Wars Lego and they don't just act out the scenes from the movies exactly. You dump it on the ground, you mix and match the pieces. Good guys are bad guys are good. Everything's twisted around and ships get mashed up. So because it's the 25th anniversary of the Lego Star Wars partnership, they were like, let's lean into this and make this show. So I'm super excited about what the show is going to be, and I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, and Lego, if you're out there, we will take payment in the form of Millennium Falcons or whatever.
yes, because otherwise I have to buy these things myself. Yep. And I have the Jedi Bob Starfighter. I got that one the other day. This was much more affordable, $40 set. But it's got an Akbar trooper. It's got a servo droid, which kind of looks like a gonk droid, and then Jedi Bob, who's voiced by Bobby Moynihan from Saturday Night Live. So nice. Very exciting there. If you guys don't know anything about Jedi Bob, he's actually kind of got an interesting history. So he was given this name because he appeared in a set called Republic Gunship. This was from 2002, this set right here. And he was there with a bunch of clone troopers, some battle droids, a droideka, but he didn't have a name. He was just an unnamed Jedi. And so the fans were the ones who gave him this name just in like the culture of like when talking about the set, they're like, oh, that's Jedi Bob right there. That's Jedi Bob. So, and now at this point, when they're doing this Rebuild the Galaxy, they're like, well, why don't we lean into that? We'll make a Jedi Bob thing the reality. So, and then they officially made a Jedi Bob set, and this is the first Jedi Bob set. So I'm super excited about it. I think it's super funny, and this show is going to be a lot of fun. So.
And voiced by Bobby Moynihan. His real name is Bob, and he's done a lot of Star Wars voices in the past. And then on SNL, he played George Lucas. He played like a nerd kid. So there's a bunch of
Star remember Wars when they were? It was like the prequel trilogy action figures, and they were doing that like adult Star Wars like collectors.
Yep. Or just leave it in the box.
And leave it in the box and never play with it. Never touch it.
Yeah, that was a great skit.
So it's funny, not to get on the side, but about that, I just moved and I was cleaning out the attic in my old house, and we'll show it on a podcast at some point. I have 3 bins, huge, like plastic tote bins of unopened Star Wars action figures.
Oh, snap.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Show us.
I think it'll be fun. We should do an entire podcast of me just going through, and we could talk about all of the different crazy. Like I found one that's like, it's a Princess Leia, like a Wave 1 Hasbro re-release, when they right when the special editions came out, but it's from a store in London where I went with my parents, and I'd gotten it because you couldn't get it in the States or whatever. So it's like the packaging's a little different. It's really neat. So nice. I'm like, I have all these toys, but my kids wanted to play with them. I'm like, leave it in the box. Do not touch.
By the way, I've been drinking Prime, not a sponsor. Not a sponsor. I'm not Logan Paul. Okay. We can't, but I'm going to drink it anyways. And if Prime wants to sponsor us,
Prime is delicious.
Notice I changed
flavor. So good, strawberry banana. Oh my God.
And notice I changed my my name to wannabe Star Wars Lego Shill.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. We should all be
I've
some
already
type of shills on this.
Yeah, we'll shill it up.
Somebody who's not a shill is Bruce Timm, and he is the architect behind basically the whole DC animated universe in the 90s, starting off with Batman the Animated Series, going to Superman, Justice League, and a whole bunch of other things. So he was asked initially, hey, why don't you come back and do the same thing you already did, but for 2024 for a modern audience? And his answer like, nah, I'm not interested in that. That's not something that would kind of make
I'm
me
not interested.
And this was like 4 or 5 years ago. Warner Brothers was like,
Rachel,
hey, could you just pump out some more of that animated series? Just give us some more of that stuff. And he was kind of like, I've already been there. I've already done that. But the thing that got him interested and what actually ended up being Cape Crusader, the new series that just came out, was him saying, okay, there were some stories that they wouldn't let us tell in the 90s. They wouldn't let us, because of Fox, because of censors, all this stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm more interested in a darker take, and those stories that I had that I wasn't able to tell, let's get those things out. And then that kind of piqued his interest, and he started talking more and more, and he was like, oh, okay, interesting. So that led to this Prime Video series, which is 10 episodes for one season. They dropped all 10 episodes.
Thank you.
Shoff and I watched all 10. Kevin, how many did you watch?
I'm 5 episodes in.
Okay, fine. So you're halfway.
Yeah, I'm halfway through. You can blame my wife in the Olympics for that. So
yes, the Olympics are.
Listen here, Mrs. Cole.
Taking up a ton of time right now. But I think 5 is good to give us a good, give us the Kevin Call thoughts so far. So we won't spoil it, but I'm interested.
You can. It's fine. I don't mind if you do. I'm not a spoiler.
Well,
the spoilers don't bother me. So
actually, the only thing really that I want to say, spoiler wise, Shoff, is the last episode teases something for another season. And
I am Batman.
As I was watching it, I was thinking, man, this is that we've had this talk before, the Ahsoka phenomenon, the Acolyte thing that we had. If we only got one series of this, one season, I would be disappointed. If I know I'm getting more, if I know there's a season 2, I don't have as much anxiety. I'm not like trying to put all of my thoughts into this one compressed take, right? So I saw some reports that they are working on season 2, but I saw some things that are like they haven't even started yet, like they're not through the process. So I don't know when season 2 is going to come, but knowing in the back of my mind that there is a season 2, the way that this season ends with kind of a tease, I'm happier now than I was when I was watching it. I was thinking, oh, this is it. There is no more. So as I was watching it, that was in the back of my mind. But Shoff, you were texting me as each episode was coming across your screen. And I'm curious, did it stick the landing? Did it go all the way for you from start to finish on this?
Could go all the way. Yes, it definitely did. I love this show. I really, really enjoyed it. It feels so much like a spiritual successor to Batman the Animated Series. Similar noir vibes present. I would say maybe even more so in this show. Sometimes when you see him like moving, like lots of silhouettes, there's great use of shadow, great use of lighting, interesting character takes on some of the Batman's rogues that we're used to. Probably the most interesting, and this won't spoil things for Kevin because he's already seen this episode, but the Penguin, I think, is probably one of the most interesting and unique takes, and I'm not even against it. I thought it was pretty cool.
No, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I actually think it makes the Penguin more interesting and more engaging a character. And this is nothing against like Colin Farrell's performance because he was awesome as the Penguin too, but very different to this Cape Crusader, which Minnie Driver is the voice of Penguin in this show. Yes, Oswaldo. That's right. Yeah, and she's like kind of like vaudeville-esque, kind of like lounge lizard person. So
can we just comment real quick? Sorry to interrupt, Shaw. Hamish Linklater's voice acting of Bruce Wayne Batman was absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
I mean, if ever there was and there's been people that have voiced Batman and like my kids love Batwheels on HBO Max, and it's what's his name? Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, who is it on there?
Now I'm gonna have to look it up real quick. But anyway, Hamish Linklater, he is I thought Kevin Conroy-esque.
Really?
And I'm not saying he's on that level. Let's be clear. I don't want to get dirty fan mail or like death threats or anything. But because to me, outside of Michael Keaton, like Batman to me is Kevin Conroy. So we'll talk more. I want Schaff to finish his thoughts, but I wanted to call that out. Hamish, great.
It is Ethan Hawke.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I can't remember his name. Yeah, and he's good. He's really good. And there's been other people that have lent their voice throughout the animated years in a lot of DC animated. But I thought this one was the closest to how Kevin Conroy had lent himself to that role as the sort of animated Batman. So
yeah,
really.
I want to touch on that real briefly. So I was talking to Vactor about this. I found it fascinating because I felt like this show really did a maybe even a better job than Batman the Animated Series. This is my personal opinion. It's my opinion. It's my opinion.
You can't have the opinion.
But the difference in vocal qualities between Bruce Wayne and Batman, and the times in which he chooses to give the Bruce Wayne voice or give the Batman voice is fascinating to me, because it's not as simple or clear cut as when he's Batman, he's got the Batman voice. When he's Bruce Wayne, he's got the Bruce Wayne voice. No, when he's Bruce Wayne with Alfred, he's got the Batman voice. And that to me was like, oh, wow. And granted, we've seen tons of live action Batmans and we've seen other cartoon Batmans, and they probably have done some variation of that. But I felt like this show really dialed it in that Bruce Wayne is the disguise. That Batman is who he truly is, just like Superman with Clark Kent being his disguise. And I feel like this show really exemplified that in the way that they made Bruce kind of a dick. Like, he is a pompous prick, but still liked by the community, but definitely of the rich, affluent crowd. And you hear that in that uppity tone in his voice, and then you get this Batman who's like really gritty, and when he's talking with Alfred, he's still got that brooding tone, and I'm like, that's him. We've really nailed down. They want us to understand that Batman is truly who he is on the inside, and that I thought was really, really cool and well done by
there's
Hamish.
other ones that have done that before, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, like Schaff said, basically telling you Batman is who he is. That's his true persona. He's not trying to put on a voice. That's how he talks. That's how he is. And you were saying, speaking to Alfred, something that our friend Super Timm picked up on was that he calls him Pennyworth throughout the whole. Well, here's a spoiler, Kevin. The whole series, he calls him Pennyworth. The very last episode, he calls him Alfred.
That's true.
So there's kind of like an evolution of the way that he's looking at Alfred as the help, and not even like a father figure. Like, we're used to him having this reverence for Alfred, being, like treating him like his dad. In this first couple episodes, it's kind of like everything is about the war. He's pushing everyone away, and Pennyworth included. The only other people I've seen call him Pennyworth was Damian in the comics, and that's just because Damian's Damian. Like, he's just a brat and he doesn't respect anybody. But I think that's an interesting choice, and I like that, showing the evolution, showing the kind of arc of this first season, because this is kind of like Batman Year One, and he doesn't have everything figured out already. He doesn't have everything the way he will later worked out. And there's even that point where he loses his cool as Bruce Wayne and punches a guy because he's talking about his mom, talking about his mom's pearls. And I was like, oh, that's also kind of like not a way that we see Bruce Wayne a lot, losing control. And I like that version of it. And it's not the same thing that we see over and over again. I did want to point out to everyone who's watching, everyone who's listening to this, I think the archetype of this show, Caped Crusader, is very similar to one of my favorite comic books of all time, Gotham Central, which makes sense because Ed Brubaker is the writer of Gotham Central. He's one of the producers, and he writes 3 episodes of Caped Crusader. Greg Rucka is the other writer of Gotham Central. They teamed up and did the whole book, and it's fantastic. Like, you have to read this.
I've never even heard of it. I got to look it up tonight.
Yeah, definitely. This is one of my favorite comic books of all time. Like, not Marvel, not DC.
Well, thanks for not telling
my favorites of all time. It's crime noir. It's all from the point of the Gotham Police Department. And you see Batman and the Joker, and you see a bunch of these people in the background, but the whole perspective is the police. That comic is what the Gotham live action TV show should have been. The one with what's his name? The one that was on the CW,
It was called Gotham. Yeah,
yeah.
It was Fox, I think.
It was Fox, and it had the OC guy in it.
And that to me, they wasted so much potential because I thought it was gonna be the Gotham Central comic book. But anyways, this show is much closer to that, much darker, grittier. It's noir tales, and it just reminded me of that. And especially, Kevin, you've seen the Clayface episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
That is my favorite episode of this entire thing. And that one was written by Greg Rucka. And I was like, yeah, this is great. Cause he's a great, not only novelist, but comic book writer as well. And I just had to put that out there. Anyone if you liked Caped Crusader, you will love Gotham Central. Not only the writing, but the art as well. So 100% recommend Gotham Central.
I will be looking for it falling off of a truck later this evening.
So Kevin,
real quick, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, your first 5 episodes, what are your thoughts on this show?
I love it. I mean, so taking a step back, when you sort of introed this topic, I've always been a fan of DC animation way more than I ever have been a fan of Marvel animation. And Marvel stepped it up. There was some good stuff I liked, like Avengers Assemble and some of those other things. But DC animation, whether it's been the movies they've released or the series, I've always just felt like they understood how to adapt these comic book characters in an animated format. And that's a testament to Bruce Timm. I mean, you just laid out a lot of the shows he had his hand in. 1989 Batman and Batman the Animated Series, that dominated my childhood for a long time. It was like I'd come home from school and I would put on Batman the Animated Series. I gave it to my son like a few months ago, like a Batman the Animated Series action figure.
I do too.
That I have. And so like when I found out that this show was coming out and that J.J. Abrams of all people and Matt Reeves were having a hand in it, I was like, oh no.
Probably the oh no was for JJ more than it was for Matt Reeves, I would imagine.
I like both of those guys. But I like them not when they're messing stuff up that I like. Anyway, that said, I was a little nervous. And then like I think we didn't talk about this in the sort of early story notes, but like it was supposed to be an HBO Max series,
right?
And it was pulled off of that streamer, which made me even more worried that it's not any good. The studio doesn't believe in it. They're going to start shopping it around, and then Amazon picked it up, and I was like, well, that's not horrible. I actually am kind of excited it's on Amazon. It may actually get some more legs, get a lot more exposure to new audiences that maybe aren't as familiar with Batman the Animated Series. So, and then the trailer came out, and I was like, wow, this is like we've just talked about. very noiristic, very much an echo and a almost honoring animated series. And but it piqued my interest because I felt like the tone seemed a little bit more serious and a little bit darker. So Shoff, when you educated me that like this was Bruce Timm's coming back and telling me that, hey, these are stories that he maybe didn't get a chance to tell for whatever reason in the animated series days. That makes so much sense to me, having 5 episodes in. So I'm not going to pick on anything that you guys haven't already talked about. I do want to talk about the Penguin for a minute, because I'm guessing this is going to be it's already a controversial thing online. But like, I love what they did with that character, and I love that she kind of felt like the Goonies mom, or the Goonies.
Right.
Who was the bad Goonies? You had Joe Paliono or whatever his name is, and like the other guy, and then they had Mama. And stuff like that. Like, she kind of almost felt like that kind of mama. Yeah, the Fratellis, like the Mama Fratelli, that sort of, and I kind of like that. Like, and I love that there has been attempts to make the Penguin different in different properties. We had Danny DeVito's like literally mutated penguin hand kind of goofy thing from the Batman Returns. We had a more traditional Penguin in the animated series. We've had most recently Colin Farrell, who I thought was great. And I can't wait to see his show on HBO Max. But like, to change it up a little bit and make it a woman who has all these kids and stuff. Like, I liked it. I like what they did with it. I thought it was intriguing. She held her own against Batman, fighting him and stuff. But to me, and then I'll shut up, Batman is James Bond meets Sherlock Holmes. And like, but with all of the inner stuff that like is very unique to him. And what I loved about the animated series holds true with this one, in that they have created a really good detective story. And I feel like that's when Batman's at his best, is when he's solving a mystery. He is the smartest guy in the room, Sherlock Holmes. His skills of deduction are awesome. But then he's got, these wonderful toys, So I think the only thing I know that he's not going to be a character is the Joker. But I'm glad that they didn't bring the Joker into this. It could have been very easy to have the Joker as like a central villain or whatever. And maybe they're building up towards that. I know there's the Orphans as well. They're building up to the Robin team and stuff like that. So like I said, I've already gotten a few spoilers and whatnot, but like I like that they're slow walking this, and not just inundating. Whereas Batman the Animated Series was a little bit more episodic, right? You kind of had like the villain of the week, and there was some overarching storylines and things like that. But so this just felt like more scripted, like you were watching a movie, but in phases. So it's a great show. I hope it gets a season 2. I don't know what JJ and Matt Reeves like full involvement into this, especially given the names that you mentioned. I was familiar with Ed Brubaker, Greg Rucka, and obviously Bruce Timm. And it's like, if they're just letting those guys cook, then great. That's what their job is. Just go get it financed and supported.
JJ was harder for me to pin down. Matt Reeves, I think I felt a lot of the Batman elements in here. A lot of just the
Robert Pattinson Batman.
Yeah, the year one aspect of it, and a lot of the I guess like grounding it real world, and a lot of the way the villains are portrayed in this. And I think it's interesting, a lot of the different takes that we get. Kevin, did you get to the Harley Quinn episode?
I think I've seen that one.
Okay.
Is he seeing her as a psychologist or whatever?
Oh, no. Okay. So yeah, she has her own episode. Like there's another one after that. So
got it.
I like a lot of the like standalone episodes that they're doing. And then again, knowing that there's another season, knowing that there's more gives me a lot more like confidence that, oh man, now if they can just continue what they're doing, this is going to be even better, because 8 episodes, we live in this 8 episode world now of seasons. And it's like, man, remember Batman the Animated Series when we were getting 25, 30, 50
Smallville.
episodes? Yeah. Smallville is another one.
Yeah.
But I don't know what this streaming thing of we have to have 8 to 10 episodes now. Everything is 8 to 10. They could just keep it going. Just give us more episodes.
Don't like that they put out every episode at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to that. I prefer a weekly drop, because as a content creator, as somebody who likes to have like the water cooler conversation, Kevin and I, that goes back to our Fuse Film days, and when we talked about comics, movies, TV shows, everything just weekly. I like getting that talk of, hey, what are people thinking, and what's the discussion?
Well, that's why we go to the comic book store, right? Yes. We like coming week after week to get the latest issue. And if they just gave us the 25 issues, it'd be like I would just get them all and never go back to the comic book store. So, and as somebody who has kids and a wife and other things going on, it's hard to binge 8 to 10 episodes all at once.
Thank you.
So that, and again, that's why I'm behind, right? So it's like, I can't sit here and talk about the entire season with you guys. Whereas like, if we were just talking about the first few episodes, it'd be great.
And I didn't necessarily want to watch I watched 10 episodes in a day, and I was like,
I didn't want to.
I don't want to be spoiled. I don't want people telling me what's happening. So there's that fear in the back of my mind. I'm going to get spoiled. So yeah, the binge model for me is not my favorite, but it's interesting. Some people they like having the whole story all at once and then moving on to the next thing. That's the Stranger Things model of like, people will watch the entire season at midnight or whenever it drops, and they'll be happy about it. And I'm like, man, I don't want to be spoiled on this. And I have that anxiety on Stranger Things every time a new season drops. So
yep. One thing I'll say back to the show real quick is what I love about it is the setting. And, where you had the Matt Reeves Batman with Robert Pattinson, it's very modern. It's modern Gotham. We saw that with obviously Chris Nolan's take on The Dark Knight. Tim Burton's was like, this is what he thought a live action comic book movie should look like, and all of his kind of weird color and palettes and tones and stuff that he likes to inject. But what I like about this one is like, you have like this sort of steampunk feel to it in a lot of ways, this 1930s, world with the cars and the Studebakers and the way people dress with the fedoras and the suits and things like that. So, it's interesting. People aren't walking around with cell phones and things like that. So it almost kind of feels true to the original essence of Batman in the OG Detective Comics. I haven't shared this with a lot of people, but like one of my favorite comic book movies and comic books growing up is The Phantom. Like Billy Zane is the Phantom. Like I think that's a good movie. And
my dad loved the Phantom growing up.
The Phantom. And the Shadow.
Not Shadow. Now we're talking.
Dad loves the Shadow.
Yeah, but it's like,
who knows what danger lurks in the hearts of men?
That's right. The Shadow knows.
The Shadow knows.
So it's like it feels like that kind of like the Phantom and the Shadow could show up, and so I love that it's not a Batman Beyond, it's not a modern day take, because it puts Batman in a situation where he can play by different rules, because he's not bound by technology that invokes questions. Well, because like you end up having to write things into something because of the technology, right? And so it just makes the detective story and the character drivenness of it just more fascinating to me. And it's like, why hasn't anybody wanted to adapt this in a live action framework? Like, how interesting would that be if it is set, a live action film set in the 1930s with Batman? Like, we're about to get Spider-Man Noir with Nick Cage in live action. Like, why couldn't we get a Batman live action like this. You know, why do we need Robert Pattinson in like a military grade armor with a, you know, a tricked out hot rod, you know, or whatever it is he's got going on. So did y'all like the Batman, by the way? Not to get off on that.
I was thinking about rewatching it the other day. I was like, man, I
can't rewatch. I actually did watch it not so long ago because the first time I watched it, I accidentally, I didn't plan ahead, and I wanted to see it opening night and did not want to be spoiled. The only seats left were the front row, and that was not a movie to watch in the front
That's
row.
how I saw Top Gun Maverick the first time. Wow. My wife and I bought tickets late and we're like, let's go. And it was like a date night.
I would throw up. If I saw that movie, I would throw up.
We were literally like in the second row. And it was like, I couldn't, like, my neck was hurting for like 3 days afterwards. And I was like, I'm glad I saw it in theaters though. Like that was such a cool movie to see in theaters, but man.
But like everyone's faces, like got like the big, like Chad jaw, like Giga Chad style. But you know, it's funny. You mentioned the shadow, and we talked about Clayface in episode 2, I think it was, and he had a look that was very reminiscent of the Shadow. He even had, it was like the red scarf over his face and the big hat and the trench. I was like, man, he looks just like the Shadow. So that was great because that's the original Clayface, not the one we're used to from the animated series. That is the Golden Age Clayface, and there's a lot of Golden Age like versions of the characters. Batman with his gloves, there's the small bat, like there's a ton of stuff that it harkens back to that time. And I like that because Kevin, it's like, this is the animated series, they wanted a 40s look to it. I was watching an interview with Bruce Timm, and he was talking about they wanted that 40s look, and they wanted to set it in the 40s, but Fox was like, no, you gotta be modern, you got to have a modern thing to it. So that's why some of the technology is more modern, and it's that Art Deco vibe, but it's not actually the 40s. They said this one is actually supposed to be set in the 40s. That's why the technology is like a turn radio. It's not like he's in his car and he's got a transistor radio. So a lot of those things are 40s accurate. Yeah. One issue I did have with the show, having watched all the episodes, and I can't pinpoint the dialogue because I didn't write it down, but there's a few moments where some of the writing does not lend itself to what someone would say in the 40s, like in the 30s or 40s. Like it's modern dialogue at times, and that's just that honestly just comes about from, you know, the writing team not being all on the same page.
Fella did me wrong, Batsy. Like we need more of that.
Yeah, like when when Barbara Gordon was talking about this being bussin' or not, you know, like I was like, this doesn't belong in this show.
Pretty sure they didn't say that in the 1940s.
I missed that one, Shaw. I think that was Shaw's memory.
On God, respectfully, bussin'.
She wasn't talking about her TikTok, Shaw.
She was like, no cap, Batman, no cap.
All right. Well,
you're speaking a foreign language to me.
Let's get to our last story this week. Kevin, there was a big, I don't know. This is not like a confirmed thing, but apparently the leak of the Kang Dynasty, what was the Kang Dynasty, came out, and oh boy, is it a doozy. So Kevin, why don't you tell us about this story?
Yeah, so we're getting the post San Diego Comic-Con sort of Robert Downey Jr. He's coming back to the MCU, but he's not playing Tony Stark. He's playing Dr. Doom. Big news, right? And on the heels of that, obviously, is the confirmation that that the Kang Dynasty is no more. We're moving into Doomsday and Secret Wars. I think Secret Wars was always on the table. It was just sort of how did we, bridge the gap to that. But this My Time to Shine Hello on X/Twitter has sent out this. This is what the Kang Dynasty story was going to be. And we just got exposed, spoiler alert, to those who haven't seen Deadpool Wolverine, to anchor beings, right? So we know from Loki, there's Nexus beings, we have anchor beings, we have, what are some of the other things in the MCU that we've gotten introduced to over the last, in this sort of post-Endgame deal? But
those are the big ones.
Those are the big ones. And so this movie that we were supposed to get, the Kang Dynasty, was going to be a gathering of anchor beings from across the multiverse. And you were going to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming back. You were going to see Tom Holland, obviously, as Earth 616 is anchor being. But more importantly, they were also going to bring in Nick Cage's Ghost Rider, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
We're gonna steal it.
They would all fail, leading to the collapse of a multiverse and then Kang's creation of Battle World, and it would set the stage for Secret Wars. And there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we're not getting this." And then you also had the comments from Jonathan Majors that came out where he talked about how he's, Robert Downey Jr.'s dope, but that he's sad he's not going to be playing the character anymore. If you go over to our friends at Screen Crush, they put out a video about all this, and one of the things they educated me on that I didn't know is supposedly in Jonathan Majors' contract, he was able to somehow negotiate this, and I don't believe it, but that he's the only person that can play Kang, like that, and that's why they couldn't recast the character.
I've heard this too, but
yeah,
I don't know how much I believe of it.
Like you were a nobody before you played Kang, and like all of us, you have that much power with Disney and Marvel to negotiate something like that when they've known to replace people all the time. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But let's assume it's true. Okay, so Disney's pivoting, but I think the combination of the Jonathan Majors legal stuff, the lack of interest in Kang from audiences general, as well as some of the comic book fans that have been going to see the post-in-game content, and the dismal performance of Quantumania, I think all of that was the reason why they're pivoting. And I'm okay with it. I am, for a couple of reasons. Number one, I love Dr. Doom. And I think Dr. Doom is one of the best villains and characters in Marvel. He's just awesome. And I am very interested to see how this Robert Downey Jr. casting plays out with the character, because I've heard both sides of this. There's people that think this is the greatest casting in history, and that it's awesome. And then I've heard people that are like, well, if he's a Stark variant, then that just sort of ruins Dr. Doom. And I get that. We don't know ultimately what's going to happen. I actually believe that certain elements of what's in My Time to Shine Hello's supposed leak of the Kang Dynasty film or script will likely play themselves into Doomsday and ultimately Secret Wars. I don't know if we're going to get Nick Cage as Ghost Rider.
Who? What? When? Where? Why?
I can't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal it. We're gonna steal the Declaration of the Multiverse.
I'd watch that.
I would totally watch a National Treasure multiverse deal. That's awesome.
That's high praise.
We're gonna get crazy. Like he gets his crazy eyes and stuff like that. Yeah.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Full face off, So just anyway.
Yes.
But I am I think there will be elements of this that will make their way into, especially just given the Deadpool and Wolverine. My concerns though are a lot of this feels like some of the things we just saw in Deadpool and Wolverine, where you had anchor beings, you had worlds that have been destroyed, you had, sort of a rogues gallery of people from other multiverses, good guys from other multiverses like Elektra and Blade and stuff like that. So I'm kind of like this. I hope they do something different. I hope the emergence of RDJ, the casting of him, bringing in Doom, I hope this allows them to maybe not just go a different direction, but a direction that would be better. I like the idea of like where you almost have two stories going on, maybe like the story is Sam Wilson leading the Avengers and stuff going on Earth, and then maybe you do have these anchor beings that are kind of going through and then eventually there's this meeting. It's similar to what Infinity War did, where you had some characters over here that were on Titan doing this, you had characters doing other thing. So I got to get a Prime now. Coach Prime. I love the Prime, baby. So, but yeah, that's my take on this. I'm curious what you guys think. We haven't talked about it, at least off text. The RDJ casting, the new direction for the next Avengers movies. So what's your guys' take on this? When you found out about this could have been the Kang Dynasty story, did this excite you? Or are you like oh man, we're not going to see any of this? Or like, what's your thoughts?
Shoff, you go first.
Okay, cool. All right, here we go. So the massive failure that was Quantumania, for me, see, I loved Kang. I love Jonathan Majors as an actor. Do not support what was happening in private life, and whether or not that was 100% true. I'm not going to comment on, but at the very least, he was found guilty. So we're going to go with that. But he is an excellent actor, and the stuff he did in Loki season 1 as He Who Remains, some of the stuff he did in season 2 of Loki was excellent as well. But I think season 1, he really, like, there's a moment where he has this just incredible monologue as He Who Remains, and it stood out to me. I was like, dang, this guy can act. And then that made me go and watch him in Lovecraft Country. Yep.
I feel like that monologue, Shoff, is what made Marvel say, let's put the whole thing on his shoulders.
Yeah.
That one monologue was like, all right, Kang, everything's going to be Kang.
Yeah. And I would have been okay with it, except that I don't think that they should have used Kang for Quantumania. I think that's one of their biggest
mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah. He's too big a villain to throw in there. And then when they have like him being ideally the prime Kang be featured in that and get defeated by, of all people, Ant-Man, it sort of lessens the blow of, okay, is this guy really like a threat?
In the worst way possible. He like pushed him in the ship or whatever it was after ants showed up. Like,
exactly. He was basically beaten by a bunch of ants. Like, so
I thought for sure he was killing Ant-Man. When I was watching, I was like, oh, Ant-Man's going to die.
Yeah.
But that's what should have happened. That's honestly what should have happened.
When we talk about stakes, or at the very least, Ant-Man and Wasp should have been stuck in the quantum realm by the end of it. Right. And that didn't happen. And so like they had a lot of missteps with that. And then to basically like kind of essentially maybe kill him off in Quantum Mania, it was left open-ended for probably good reason. There was rumors that he was going to become, that version of him was going to become the Beyonder, and whatnot. But I think like having the Council of Kangs at the end of that was just, it really set too much in motion. And then I thought, well, they're doing Fantastic Four. I thought we were going to get Immortus. No. What am I thinking of? The King Tut version. Is that Immortus?
That's right.
Yeah,
you're right.
So I thought that he was going to be a villain in Fantastic Four to sort of continue this Kang vibe throughout this multiverse saga that we're dealing with. So I thought that they were planting the seeds appropriately, but not anymore. And I'm bummed because I think Kang is a really interesting and cool villain if they had enough planning throughout the movies, not just like we'll put him in here and then maybe we won't see him again for another like 10 movies and then blah blah blah. He'll come back for Secret Wars. That'll be good. No.
So before we get to Vactor's thought, I want to respond because I'm with you in a lot of ways, and I think the Quantumania kerfuffle was sort of the beginning of the end, even before the legal stuff, because financially disappointing film. Marvel had other, with the other properties that they were releasing, there was already this sort of Marvel's lost it talk. And it's like, and Kang got the blame, right, wrong, or indifferent. I think the complexity of the multiverse saga, the double downing on Kang, because they marketed that movie as, here's the next Thanos, here's the next Marvel bad guy, the boss at the end of the level, you're getting your first preview. And it's like, to me, I thought the first preview during Loki was so much better. See you soon. It was like that to me was like, okay. Like, and I remember seeing Loki going, oh, this is the guy. Yeah. This is the guy right here. So Quantumania ruined it completely. And I don't think that there was ever a recovery scenario. And I think that's when we started to hear that Shang-Chi's director, Andrew, what's his last name?
Dustin Daniel Cretton.
Dustin Daniel Cretton. Gosh, thank you. I'm terrible at names. Yeah, everybody listens to this podcast. You realize I'm horrible with names. That's why Justin always keeps me honest. But like, we started to hear from him. And he's like, oh yeah, I know I'm directing the movie, but we keep moving things around, this, that, and the other. And then you stopped hearing from Michael Walton and some of the other people involved. And it's like, you could tell behind the scenes things were changing and evolving and stuff like that. Then the legal issues happened. It was almost kind of like, I don't mean this to sound this way, but like people in Marvel were probably like, oh, thank God, like this kind of gives us a reason to pivot, On a comment that Jonathan Majors made, I do want to say this because he said it's interesting how Robert Downey Jr. Gets all this love given his legal issues. I understand what you're saying, bro, but like Robert Downey Jr. had 10 years and he also went to prison like in that time frame, and he had 10 years where he had to rebuild his entire life. And so he earned his way back, and Iron Man was the gift that propelled him back to where he is now. You got to earn
Miller's
it, man.
Closer to what?
Yeah. I think if you were gonna call out anybody, Ezra Miller would be the one. And but you got time. You're a talented actor. I'm sure you're gonna deal with whatever your issues are that led to that situation. But like, you got to earn it back, man. And time heals all wounds for everybody, fans, the studios, things like that. And if you're talented enough, which you are, you're going to find your way back. So that's my message to you, Jonathan Majors. I know you don't listen to the show. You don't really care about anything we have to say, but I felt like I needed to comment on that because that really bothered me when I read that.
That did come across kind of weird. Shuff, I wanted to point out real quick, there's this scoop, which may or may not be true. I don't know if this is confirmed, but Jonathan Majors had actually filmed scenes for Agatha as Immortus. And that was supposed to be the lead up to, he was the author of the Darkhold, all these Book of Spells and all this stuff. So now apparently those scenes have been cut and we will not see those. Obviously,
that is complete and utter bullshit.
So that
makes me mad.
It is like the Marvel putting so much weight on Kang to be like the next phase. Everything was going to be Kang. Yet it kind of makes you think, okay, you probably need to have some insurance policies and not have everything specifically riding on one person. What happens, not knock on wood, what happens if we have another Chadwick situation where someone passes away? We don't know if everything that's going to happen. So I think they should have some type of fail safes in place. And the fact that if that's true about his contract thing, why did you let him sign that? Why did you let him put that as a clause in his contract that he's the only person that can play Kang? And you are betting so much on Kang. Everything about the phases was Kang. And now everything is going to be Doom. Like, you're switching everything up. The phase seems to have gotten shorter. There's not as many movies in between. And then it's going to be Doomsday and then Secret Wars. And I think what Marvel's going to do is, and it's perfect. Secret Wars is a perfect place to do it. That's where they're going to do the either soft reboot or hard reboot of the universe and have a fresh group of people come in, fresh actors, maybe even start it with the Fantastic Four, building them up as the first heroes instead of Iron Man being like the cornerstone of the universe, the pillar of the MCU. Start it with the Fantastic Four, started with the X-Men, and so I think they're going to have a chance to learn from a lot of their mistakes. And Kang was interesting to me. I was looking forward to seeing what they were going to do. If that leak is true, Kevin, about the anchor beings and all that stuff, I felt like we got enough of that in Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't know if
Multiverse of Madness as well, and there's No Way Home. Yeah.
I don't know if that would have been a great setup for Secret Wars. It seems like what they're doing now with Doomsday is going to be more alongside the comics, more aligning that way. And then also the possibilities with Robert Downey Jr. as Doom to me are very interesting. Whether he's just playing Doom and that's it, Victor Von Doom, him as an actor, like let's say we never had him as Tony, just in our minds, him as a actor, what can he bring to Doom? I want to see that. And then if they go the Tony variant route, to me, I don't have the same opinion as a lot of people have. Oh, it's desperate, it's a cash grab. They're just trying to say, oh, remember you liked him in that, so now you're gonna like him in this. I feel like they have a plan. I want to be hopeful and optimistic that Marvel has a plan and they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And Tony, you're picking Robert Downey Jr. because of the connection we have in our minds to Tony Stark and the possibility of him. Okay, he played the greatest hero in this universe. Now he's going to play the greatest villain in this universe. I think that's interesting. The Tony, people recognizing Tony's face, especially somebody like Peter Parker, Pepper Potts, Cap, whoever, all these people recognizing Tony Stark, but he's Doom. That's interesting to me. But then also the other thing is, I don't know how much are they going to show Robert Downey Jr.'s face in this, because we know they're not paying him $80 million to be behind the mask the whole time and be at his home studio and record it and record Secret Wars and Doomsday. So how much are they going to show his face in this version? I don't know.
I don't want them to show his face. I want the mask. I want the Darth Vader-esque nature of the character where he's ominous and threatening and behind the Doom armor. Yeah, I want to add something because I remember a conversation with Feige at Comic-Con many years ago. And I asked him, I said, what inspires you with these movies and sort of your end game with all of this? And I remember he said something along the lines of like
end game. How do you know that?
Yeah. Wait, what? How'd you get a hold of my board? But
that's when the sniper got you.
But no, the question where I was trying to get to with him was just like, narratively, what is kind of the inspiration? And he didn't even have to think about it. He said Star Wars. And in his mind, the Infinity Saga, and I've read this later on, so this isn't just my 5 minutes that I had with him, but I've seen this carry on through other interviews where he's talked about the Infinity War saga is like the new hope of his sort of trilogy of sagas he's telling. And so the multiverse saga, I feel like, has been trying to build towards this being the Empire Strikes Back, where it's like the heroes, we don't have the OG Avengers anymore right now. They're, some are gone. The team's broken up. We don't know what's going on. They're looking for new leadership. And you have all of these other things, as Ross says, the world's on fire. Right, like we're seeing this post-end game in the universe where, you've got factions, you've got terrorism, you've got all these kind of things going on. Political landscapes are changing, geographical divides are changing. You got, sentinels coming out of the ocean, things like that, or not sentinels. What are they called again? The whatever they are. The Centennials or whatever. What are the big?
The Eternals?
The Centurions.
The what?
Centurions.
No, the people that galactically created everything. The Infinity Stones. The what? Celestials. Thank you. Yes, I don't know why that word escaped me. I'm tired, folks. Blame it on the kid. But my point is, like, you've got all these things going on, right? And so and now you're throwing in incursions and anchor beings and all these other multiversal things. So I like that even though there's a pivot here, it still feels like they're trying to get to this sort of Empire Strikes Back moment where the good guys aren't going to win this time around. And and there was a lot that was sacrificed in Infinity War to win. You know, and Tony was that hero. He made that choice. So to your point, Justin, the idea of casting Robert Downey Jr. as the antithesis of that choice, now as the sort of literally the Darth Vader, you know, he's going to kind of look like him, sound like him, and things like that. I can't wait, whether he's a Stark variant or not. Now, I do have a theory, and if this holds true, somebody's got to buy me lunch or something.
Ooh, Mexican pizza on the line.
Shoff is the perfect guy.
I actually don't think he's a Stark variant, but I also don't think he's a Victor Von Doom. I think he's Ultron. I think he's an Ultron variant that achieves sentience and made himself look like his creator, Tony Stark. And the Victor Von Doom armor facade is going to be a shell of a Ultron robot type armor. That's my theory. And I think it ties in well, because the only other threat outside of Doom and Kang that is interesting to me is Ultron. And the Age of Ultron movie just didn't get us there. And we saw, like, in What If, you know, how much Ultron played into that, to the point where the Watcher had to step in, you know, and stuff like that. So that's where I think it could be going with Doomsday and Secret Wars, is that Ultron is really driving this, and that's going to be how they're going to adapt it. But it will open the door to us seeing who the real Victor Von Doom is at some point, and the actor that actually will portray that for future movies and stuff like that with the Fantastic Four.
Because that's the thing. We don't want to get 2 movies of Doom and then that's it. Like, this is the guy, Dr. Doom, one of the most famous villains. It's like, we don't want to lose him after 2 movies. So,
well, and there was a Fox movie that was written called Doom by Noah Hawley, the creator of the Fargo TV series. And I remember, like, reading an article specifically where Kevin Feige met with him. Like, literally, he was one of the first 3 people he met with after the Fox acquisition. And so I think there's been an intentional attempt to try to figure out how to take that script, because apparently it was really, really good from what I understand. They said it was fantastic, to try to figure out when to bring that into the MCU at the right time. So I think we need to get past this honoring the 2000 comic book movies, the 2000s era comic book movies of X-Men and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy and all those things. I think the multiverse saga has allowed us to do that. And I think it's time to move on to the future of the MCU, because it's that memberberry crap that I think we're running the risk of falling into. And it's like, we need to continue to push the envelope, because here's what's happening. You're wearing the shirt. We got Superman right there. We've got this new DCU coming, and they're going to be bringing the punches. And, you know, I don't think there's such thing as superhero movie fatigue or saturation. I think it's people want those characters to have great stories.
Yes.
100%. So if this doesn't turn into a great story, we're going to be in trouble. We could actually see the collapse of the MCU at some point. So bringing RDJ back, I think, is a step in that right direction. Right, wrong, or indifferent. But
bringing the Russos back is a great.
I think the Russos are. Well, you need 2 people to make these movies. Like, whether they're brothers or just 2 people, you need a director duo.
Scale of them.
Yeah, the scale, because neither director can be everywhere, anywhere, and all at once. And it's like, you have to have a lot of that, and the fact that they have the experience and they're lovers of the material, I think is great. So anyway, I have sucked up the air on this conversation, but it's like, that's something I'm very passionate about. And I still think we'll get Kang at some point. I really do.
I hope so.
I think there will be an attempt to reapproach the Kang character and letting maybe some of this Jonathan Majors and stuff kind of die down.
Yeah, because I really don't want it to put a bad taste in the the non-comic readers' mouths. You know, the Kang. Ooh, I don't like just hearing the word Kang. I don't like that. I got the guy that got killed by an ant. No, I don't want any of that. I want him to have more respect on his name. So I hope they do bring him back and can do something interesting with him.
I hope they do an Iron Lad type storyline where he's aware of who he could become.
Yeah, that would be great.
Because then you don't have to cast the same person, obviously, because he's a younger version of of himself. Like, I think that would be an interesting angle to explore.
Fascinating.
Yeah, 100%. Man, boys, we had some great talks today on Sizzling Stories. I think this is a success. If you think this is a success, why don't you leave a comment down below if you like us talking about stories in the geek universe, the comic sphere. We love talking about that here on This Comic Cooks. Schaff is going to be back. Mr. Kevin Call is going to be back. But Mr. Kevin Call, besides This Comic Cooks, where else can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can just find me at @FuseFilm. That's my social media handle. You'll find my Instagram, my Fuse Film podcast. And not to spoil anything, but these two guys and I we're talking. We're starting to figure out a future, a podcast cinematic universe.
We could be the new Russo brothers of podcasting. Hopefully, that's coming down. That's coming down the line. But we'd like to thank you very much for listening. Thank you for sharing all of your thoughts in the comments down below. And don't forget, we will be back next week talking more comic news on This Comic Cooks.
Sizzle.